I started out as an engineer and I worked on Wall Street for a little bit, was working for Goldman Sachs. And something told me that this wasn't exactly what I wanted to do or what I needed to do. And at that time, what was most present for me was teaching yoga. And so I went literally from Goldman Sachs to Gold's Gym overnight teaching yoga. And I did that for some years and it was enjoyable, but there was a level of evolution which came from that. I realized it wasn't the physical.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Mitesh Kapadia, an executive coach, speaker, and founder of Lead with Consciousness, where he helps high-performing professionals break free from invisibility and finally claim the recognition, promotion, and leadership influence they deserve. With over 15 years of experience training leaders at companies like Apple, Salesforce, Cisco, and Microsoft, Mitesh specializes in helping directors, VPs, and founders navigate office power dynamics, elevate their presence, and lead with confidence without sacrificing authenticity. His signature pause, pivot, play framework helps clients quiet internal doubt, embody a powerful leadership identity, and step fully into their next chapter. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Mitesh.
Thank you, Rexhen. I'm appreciative of having this opportunity to have a chat with you and really just to share any insights that come through in this dialogue, because everything is a co-creation. And that's what I enjoy about this, is that knowledge is out there, but it's the coming to life of it, which I enjoy. And that comes through dialogue and that comes through conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure for us to have you on. So wanted to learn, when it comes to your beginnings as a coach, like, first of all, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
For me, it evolved. I started out as an engineer and I worked on Wall Street for a little bit, was working for Goldman Sachs. And something told me that this wasn't exactly what I wanted to do or what I needed to do. And at that time, what was most present for me was teaching yoga. And so I went literally from Goldman Sachs to Gold's Gym overnight teaching yoga. And I did that for some years and it was enjoyable, but there was a level of evolution which came from that. I realized it wasn't the physical practice that was most important for me to support people on, but it was more helping and supporting folks with their mental and emotional challenges. And so naturally, I got into communication skills training soon after that. And from there, I was doing training for a long time. And I recognized that when people would bring their communication challenges, underneath that was the ability to be seen, to be visible, for people to recognize their value. And communication was just one element of it. But then I recognized as I started exploring conversations with people that there was more required from that. And that's where coaching evolved for me, is that as I started having conversations with people, I realized that there is a whole area of looking at visibility from the lens of communication, from the lens of presence, from the lens of networking and creating allies within your organization, from the lens of just being clear as to what you want so that people can actually see you and advocate for you. If they don't know who you are and what you want, they can't do anything for you. So that is where it evolved. And so I bring to this place a sense of, as my engineering background, the frameworks and the processes and the logic. And then from my yoga background, I combine the heart and the presence. And I bring those two things together because they both are required. The strategy as well as the presence and the purpose.
And how many years has it been with the coaching business?
It's been roughly 2 to 3 years now at this point. Mm-hmm. And first it started out with just communication skills coaching. And then, like I said, that sort of evolved to more working with the VP and director level and helping them move to that executive level.
Cool. And so when thinking about working with your clients right now and going through the coaching journey with them, what about it do you find the most rewarding since you started doing this?
The most rewarding part of it is simply seeing the transformation. And that's why people bring on coaches, is because those who recognize it see that a coach can help with their blind spots. Because you can be in the world of whatever you do, but you'll have these blind spots that you're not seeing. And so for me is to be able to just point a finger and saying, what about that? What about this? What about this area that have you considered this? And just through that process of asking questions and pointing at things, that person automatically sees a better picture, a bigger picture of their world. And the transformation happens soon after, or it happens in that moment and it continues to expand as they go forward.
So when thinking about these clients right now, is it of a certain industry, certain demographic, certain common goals that they have, and any commonalities that you could share? How would you describe the ideal client profile?
In my case, it's primarily folks in the technical space, IT space. It could be even accounting and biotech as well, but somebody who's an expert at what they do. And what happens is that at some point, your brilliance takes you to a certain level. And once you're at that level, then everybody's brilliant. Everybody is an expert in what they do. So the challenge then becomes for these individuals that I work with is, how do I separate myself so that I can be seen not just for my brilliance, because people already know that, but for my ability to lead, for my ability to think strategically, and for my ability to support an organization and grow the business. And that's where who the ideal client is, that person who's sort of on the cusp of moving up, but they're not being seen or perceived in the way that they want to be, and to transform that within themselves so that then others on the outside can see that as well.
And what is the engagement? How does the engagement look like? So is there a certain program of a certain length for these clients that they go with you? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is there group coaching as well? How would you describe the engagement?
Yeah, one-on-one is primarily the way that I like to work with folks. Group coaching can work, though I've found that to be more limiting in terms of getting the right people together. And so that's been one thing I've been looking at, but until I get the right people, that's not something that I've primarily focused on. So for me, it's one-on-one. And the engagement is 3 months engagement, where not just looking at tools and strategies, but in the beginning, really looking at the mindset, really looking at the beliefs, really looking at what is the internal stuff that's holding people back. Because you can have the best strategy or the tools. I can say, hey, when you're in front of an audience, do these XYZ things, stand, great eye contact. But if the confidence is not there, if the belief in them mattering or them being an equal in these conversations is not there, then none of those tools land that well. And so for me, it's really to help take that first month of, okay, let's look at what is all what I like to call the anchors that are weighing you down, that's keeping your boat not moving anywhere in any direction. And then once you release those anchors, then all of a sudden those tools and strategies become almost like a motorboat and just kind of propels you forward. And so for me, the first month, let's look at internal things. And the second and third months, let's put those into practice and put them into play within your organization.
When it comes to you finding your clients right now, is there some sort of like a marketing channel that is working very well for you that you'd like to share?
As a coach, this is my personal belief that you are your brand and you have to show up. And so for me, it's evolved to a place of using LinkedIn as my main channel. So I do post quite regularly, approximately 5 times a week. And in those posts, really capturing the challenges that my audience is facing, my ideal audience, speaking on the things that could benefit them, and not just educational, but also sharing my own stories, client examples, and sometimes my own journey along the way. And so that's the primary. And then also just direct outreach to folks and building that community. So this year I started first making a commitment January 1st, one of those commitments to myself and saying, all right, January, I'm going to start posting much more regularly and just be more out there, because I am the brand. If nobody knows me, then it's not like I'm a physical store where people can just drive by and saying, oh, there's Mitesh Kapadia over here. That doesn't work for a coach, especially since you don't have a brick and mortar shop. For me, social media has been a gift and continuing to build that. So it started out with 3 times a week posting, and then it started out with 5 days a week. And then it additionally adding a newsletter, especially on LinkedIn, which has been helpful to consistently post every week a newsletter on a specific topic and just building that. I call it the Executive Edge newsletter, which is really for those who are on the edge of being an executive to move to that place that they want to be.
And how is the strategy behind the outreach? Like, is it all happening on LinkedIn? And how are you kind of like finding the right people?
Yeah, one of the most powerful tools on LinkedIn, as many coaches know, is Sales Navigator. And so I do use that to just look at who's out there, who are navigating it enough that, who would be a potential person that could be of interest that I could start a dialogue with. I don't look at it from, I need to get a client in a sense, but more like who is out there that could benefit from having this conversation or to explore this sort of thing and really making it accessible. And that's the beauty of it, is that direct outreach is accessible, because sometimes people are thinking about it and I show up at the right time and they're like, oh, I've been thinking about this and I'm glad that you just messaged, because it's on my profile. You have to optimize your profile. It's on my profile as to what I help people with and what I support people with in terms of visibility and just expanding that. And so when they see that, they're saying that just starts a conversation. And that's the whole idea of building that outreach.
And so how are you approaching, meaning what?
Yeah, it's a refinement that has happened over time. And so earlier this year, as I made the commitment to post more often, I interviewed 20 experts, people who are already VPs, directors, or people who are already in executive positions, and just had 20-minute conversations with them and said, what are some of the big things that are going on in your world? What's happening? How have you noticed others struggling in terms of getting visibility and getting promoted or getting salary bumps or whatever that might be? And I really got a lot of information from that. And so for me, I collected that and it evolved into a model, which I call the CEO model, which C stands for clarity of vision, E stands for executive presence, and O stands for opportunity creation. And as I put this together, it came from those conversations. So that's typically what I offer, not necessarily the model itself, but some insight on, hey, if you're looking to gain visibility, call it a freebie, call it I first started with a document. At this moment, I'm working on just putting together a video segment around that, just to have that as a freebie for people, and they can take advantage of it and see and get some insights from it. Because like I said, ultimately people have to see you as a coach. If they don't see you in action, if they don't know who you are, then the words don't land as well. And for me, that video has been a big thing. And so I've taken the information and make it come to life.
Looking to the future, do you have any like specific goals you're working on for the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business?
My goal is primarily to really take this journey of establishing a solid brand, because first is one-on-one working with individuals, but also like you were sharing earlier, like working with people's teams and, making this a bigger impact, not just with individuals, because individuals is great. I love doing what I do, but I also feel like there's an opportunity. So within the next 2 years, I would say, is start offering more training, start offering the group dynamics that help to sometimes create these breakthroughs for people, and really changing corporate training from the lens of where I see, because I've been in the training world, so I know the lens of like, here are the tools, go play with the tools and you'll be great. But I think that's where corporate training fails for a lot of folks, is that it's not just about the tools, but as I said earlier, it's like working on the mindset, the inner part of you, confidence building, emotional intelligence, building the ability to manage yourself. And through that process, so it's not just a one-off training, but it's a journey. And that's what I want to create eventually, is build that journey. And for, if you're calling me in, like just like a consultant, not just for, hey, he's here, Mitesh is here for a day, but more, he's here for 3 months, or he's here for a 6-month engagement, working on a regular basis to help us from point A to point B.
Nice. And where do you see the challenges right now in doing that?
The initial challenge is, for me, primarily in the sales arena. When I have conversations with people, or the marketing that I'm doing right now, or in terms of outreach on LinkedIn, it's specifically targeted to the person who has the problem. And when it comes to then expanding and scaling to training, it's not directed to the person who has a problem. It's the person that is making decisions about the people that have the problem or people have the challenge. And so it's a whole different messaging. It's a whole different wing of, a whole different audience. And as you know, when you have a different audience, the whole cascading effect of what needs to be said, how it needs to be positioned changes. So I haven't really gotten there yet, but I know that once this part of the practice is established, that I really want to, that I've tested it out, that I've really set it.
Cool. When it comes to the investments that you've done over time on the coaching business for the last 2 years, has there been any investment that you feel very good about? You feel like, oh, that was a good investment, got good return from it, or learned a lot from it?
Yeah. So I've certainly made investments, and I made one just recently last week that more around the sales process of how to start, because I'm seeing the leads for me come in, through the outreach that I'm doing. So the leads haven't been the big issue. Before that was the big issue. And when I did invest previously in a program, I think I invested it in prematurely, even though I invested heavily, upwards of, 10K or 15K in a program. And so that's what I would suggest for other coaches, is that if you are looking to make an investment, make it because you're ready for taking on those tools and strategies, not because you feel broken or that you feel like somebody needs to fix you. If you go in with that mindset, then you're not going to get much out of it like I did. And so this time when I invested, I hadn't invested in almost over 2 years. And I was very mindful and diligent of what I wanted to spend on. And I knew that, okay, now I'm ready to up my sales process. And so I made the investment last week. Whereas previously it was like, fix me, help me, do whatever you can to make me successful. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And well, for coaches out there that are looking to do the same thing, that are looking to scale, is there any advice you'd give to these coaches that are looking to scale their impact?
Sometimes we get so caught up in like how and where we want to go, but knowing when the right time is. And for me, this has been an evolution. Like I said, as I started as an engineer, worked on Wall Street, did yoga, training, and communication skills coaching, and then executive coaching. There was an evolution, and each time the evolution happened, it felt at the right place. And once you feel comfortable with that, take the next thing that's reachable and achievable and realistic for you. And so for me, that's the biggest encouragement for other coaches is know what's next in terms of the next step.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mitesh. And thanks so much for coming to our show today. Mitesh Kapadia, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, right? So you'll find me in both places, and happy to connect with whoever decides to find me through this podcast.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.